Testing. We're ready. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of Cedarfield. Thank you for tuning in. It is June 24th at 3 o'clock. We are so glad you have chosen to spend time with us for the next 60 minutes. Those of you that are listening tonight here on Wednesday, thank you for taking time away from your family to listen to some updates from Cedarfield. Today's format is as follows. We have a packed agenda here for 60 minutes. Yours truly talk a little bit about COVID-19 communication and our three-phase plan, followed by David Stewart and team are here to talk a little bit about dining services in phase 2. And Matt Dameron will be here, our Associate Executive Director, to talk a little bit about the changing environment from our licensed side of the community perspective. So the Virginia Department of Health and the Department of Social Services, both of which guide us in regulatory compliance with nursing home and assisted living, have come out with some guidelines this past week, and Matt is going to walk us through some of those guidelines, just so everybody's on the same page about how we are to manage the property on the license side. I'll follow that up by some administrative tidbits, and then I believe Trish is here, Trish Carter, for some spiritual well-being, and then Trish has some great news, and I have some great news as well. So, Cedarfield Forward three-phase plan. I just want to remind everybody that these are the metrics that guide us into independent living and or the licensed side of our property, of whether or not we actually move into a new phase and or we retreat back to an old phase. And we are utilizing no known cases as our first metric, along with tests that are out pending within the community. We're utilizing our surveillance tools. We have many surveillance tools within the different levels of care that capture signs and symptoms, both reported signs and symptoms and or signs and symptoms that, because information is coming our way. Third is contact tracing lists. We have mentioned before several times that there should be businesses that are catering to the public on a very high touch perspective should have contact trace lists in the event that something happens within their business, that they're able to utilize that list and educate their customers. So we're utilizing that. We're utilizing contact trace lists right here at Cedarfield. And then the last main metric that we're using in the assisted living and or the long-term care area of our campus are these new guidelines that Matt Dameron will walk us through here in a couple of minutes. We do have some cases at the community right now. Mainly, there's 2 of them right now that we have a close eye on, and these 2 developments came our way yesterday, and because of that event yesterday, we have a new window of time that we're looking at going into the next 14 days to monitor signs and symptoms of who these folks may have been in and around, both residents and team members community, both in independent living and the licensed area. All that to be said is we do have active COVID case at the community. The person who has COVID, or the people, I should say, that have COVID-19 positive are not physically here, but they were here yesterday. And so we're closely monitoring that situation. So I wanted to talk a little bit else about COVID-19 fatigue. Does anybody, not fatigue meaning that you're weak and you might have signs and symptoms of COVID-19, but who's tired of hearing COVID-19? So there's 6 people in the fellowship hall right now, and all 6 hands went up. Do you have COVID-19 fatigue? Probably 90% of the people who are listening are shaking their head is, when is this COVID-19 term going to be eliminated from our vocabulary? You're not alone. Many people, it's research-based now, that COVID-19 is not a positive word. Go figure. And so COVID-19 fatigue, what do we mean by COVID-19 fatigue? Are you tired of hearing about COVID-19 and therefore are just waving that flag and relaxing your approach to the situation? You may have fatigue, but are you relaxing your own personal accountability and responsibility to keep yourself safe and to keep everyone else safe? That is the main question I would ask yourself. There are 7 residents at the campus right now who have not come to administration, but we know that they're out of states. We know that they have flown recently by plane. We know that they're in a train right now. There's one couple in a train heading up to New York. They didn't come to administration. So I use the word COVID-19 fatigue, maybe because people are tired of hearing about all the restrictions and the protocols that we have to go by in order to keep people safe. And people are just maybe forgetting that they have to come and let us know if they are traveling outside the Commonwealth. Fatigue. Eddie, Renee, or how do you deal with fatigue? One way I deal with fatigue now, in the beginning, March and April, I would go home from work at 9 o'clock at night, and then I'd watch the news until 11:30 until I fall asleep. I did that March, April. Now, when I go home, I don't even turn on the news. I do not turn on the news right now. I usually jump around between ABC, Fox News, CNN to get a moderate perspective, but I don't even turn on the news at night. I don't. I wake up in the morning, and my cell phone is right by my nightstand. I pick it up, and I go into those 3 news apps I just described, and I'll get the breaking news. I'll maybe go over to their COVID highlighted area to get fresh information about what's going on, and that's pretty much about it. At work here, I get a lot of information about COVID-19, talking with our long-term care providers, Leading Age, Virginia Department of Health, our national advocacy group, Leading Age, and so I get enough more information, real-time information about our local agencies. So I ask you the question again, what are you doing to make sure that you don't have COVID-19 fatigue? Have you set up your daily rhythm of life in a way that you don't become so fatigued and so tired that you throw away all the other precautionary measures that you really do need to put in place to keep yourself safe and everyone else around you safe? question of the day. What are you doing to avoid fatigue? And not the clinical term fatigue, but fatigue of COVID-19. What are you doing? I would ask Renee. Renee. You want me to share that, Renee? No, okay. Renee had just drawn a picture of what she's doing to avoid COVID-19 fatigue in her own life. And so ask yourself the question. Phase 2, July 1st. We are headed into a July 1st timeframe for Phase 2. We were, as of yesterday, COVID-free at the campus completely across all four levels of care. So it was giving us great confidence heading into July 1st that we were having no known COVID cases at the community. Although, as I just described at the top of the hour, a couple of things have popped up as of yesterday, which is going to give us reason to pause into this July 1st date. We are actively contact tracing. We are actively contact tracing the two situations that we came across yesterday to make sure that we have our T's crossed and I's dotted, knowing where these two folks went throughout the day yesterday. Hopefully keep everything crossed, that audit tool, our contact tracing tool, comes up empty, and therefore we can ease into phase 2 here in a couple of days. The executive team has met twice over the last week of refining what phase 2 looks like. We are going to be meeting with some residents here later in the week to bounce some ideas off of. David's going to talk a little bit about dining services, and again, we involve some residents in that plan, and hopefully all these roads are leading to a phase 2 on July 1st. So speaking of David and Steve, or just Steve? Wow.
I know, right?
I don't know if we're ready for that here on Prime Time. So we have Steve here that's going to walk us through phase 2, which we are going to open up Prima, Cedar Grill, and the pub. We're going to treat it all as one restaurant. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to read the memo that went out a couple of days ago, and Steve's going to walk us through the little finer details of that memo. So, Steve, take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Take it off.
You can take it off and make sure that mic is.
Good afternoon, everybody. I got to remember the microphone. So yes, I'm here to speak to you and give you a little more detail of the memo that we sent out. I know there's a lot of questions. I'll do the best I can. I do have David over here off to the side in case I misstep. He's got the whip ready to go. Keep me in line, but we're very excited about our steps moving forward in this phase 2 plan. And a lot of work has gone into it by the team. We're also very grateful to Michael for allowing us to move this plan forward. We are shooting for Monday, July 6th. Obviously, in this day and age, things are fluid. But that's our goal, Monday, July 6th, to start moving forward, which means one of the criteria that we set is for making reservations. So just like before, this plan is pretty similar to our normal operations, obviously with the exception of the physical distancing that we have to employ. The reservation system works just as it had before. You're able to call on Monday to reserve for the upcoming week. So in other words, this Monday, you can start calling in for all reservations beginning next week. plan is critical. And so basically, Prima Pub and Grill, for all intents and purposes, is one restaurant. And it's all serving the grill menu from the grill kitchen. And it will, if you remember, back 3 months ago, prior to the lockdown, our dining situation changed tremendously. Paper napkins, paper menus, individual sugar, just a lot of steps that we have to take. And also, one other thing back on the reservations. The reservations are critical, and we will not be able to allow for walk-ups, walk-ins. Everything is 100% reservation. And again, that's for the importance and the seriousness, as Michael had mentioned, the contact tracing. We have to keep very accurate records of who is where, sitting with who, and which room, and which server, in the event something unfortunate should come up. That contact tracing and those records are critical. Residents, as you may have read, residents who live together may dine together. We have ways to work that out. And so, and then also the seating throughout all the dining rooms, we count up roughly about 85 to 90 seats in an area where we used to enjoy seating about 175 or 180 people. So the tables are all spread out all over the place, and basically each table is an individual seat. Couples who live together, yes, they can share a table, and we will be assigning that as we go taking reservations. We plan to have the showcase available to start with. Going into this, there's again a lot of work and talk, and so we're going into this very carefully. We don't want to try to push ourselves too hard, too fast. Safety is paramount here. So to start with, we're not going to be offering the salad bar. It doesn't mean that something might be considered later on down the road, but we do plan to offer the showcase. And the menu, again, much like before, the specials, the daily, the showcase, will change daily, and just like the good old days, you'll be able to see on channel 970 what the showcase and daily specials are. Posted menus ahead of time.
So will they get a full week? Will they get a full week available before they go for reservations?
Will we be able to put out a full week prior to making a reservation? Yes. And at this time, residents will not be allowed to bring their own wine bottles in. We don't want to have to get into sanitizing any more than we have to. Safety first. And I'm going to say it one more time, safety is our primary concern, so we're adhering. All of these things are basically mandated to us by the Department of Health, CDC guidelines. So I know that, I guess we just got to do our best to keep thinking about COVID-19 fatigue. I picked up on that. And so we'll work on that. And then finally, we're going to be doing a brief little survey tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, we'll have some of our folks calling as many people as we can get a hold of, and just basically to ask a couple quick questions, very simple, and it's mainly to help us fine-tune our plan, to get a sense of just a couple of basic things in your preference, are you comfortable at this point coming into the dining room? We've already heard from a number of people who have expressed that they are not. It just kind of gives us an soon. Okay?
Sounds good. Any other questions?
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna, thank you, Steve, we appreciate the information.
All right.
Next up is Matt Damron, who's gonna give us some insight into the new requirements that retirement communities like Cedarfield now have to employ due to Virginia Department of Health and Department of Social Service requirements that just got firmed up and approved this week. Hello, Matt, good to see you.
Hello, good to see you too. Glad to be back here with you all. Like Michael was saying, we've gotten some guidance from the Virginia Department of Health. This has kind of been, obviously this is a new thing. COVID-19 is a new thing. There's a lot of guidance coming out, a lot of research being done, and there's a lot of governing bodies that have various recommendations for how to move forward. So there's been a lot of that here recently, and what Virginia Department of Health has done is kind of taken that guidance, put it together into a pretty darn lengthy document, a very lengthy document, which one of the members from our Ainsborough office, Rich Patone, has kind of simplified for us to make it more of a checklist. To really show retirement communities, nursing homes, what they should be doing in regards to moving from phase to phase. And so Virginia Department of Health put out this guidance, and then shortly after that, Department of Social Services, which governs our assisted living portion of the building, that's assisted living in Sunshine Plaza, they adopted the same guidance as well. So there's quite a bit, as I said, to that document, but some of the main things that I wanted to point out to you are the testing requirements, or there's strong recommendations that people take. So the first I want to talk about is the Point Prevalence Survey, the PPS. If you remember a couple of months ago, we did a PPS survey here on campus with a certain portion of our nursing home in healthcare. That's when the National Guard came on campus, did mass testing for the residents and the team members in that specific area of healthcare. Well, the new guidance suggests that every community do a point prevalence survey for the entire licensed portion of your building. So we will be doing that with the National Guard again, and they will be coming in to test every resident in Sunshine Plaza, assisted living, and our 3 healthcare households, as well as all of the team members that work in those areas. So the tentative date for that is Thursday, July 9th. So on that day, hopefully that day, if we don't get postponed for some reason, the National Guard will come in and administer all of those tests. Again, that's a heavy recommendation from the Department of Health to get a good baseline for COVID-19. Then we kind of go down, another piece of guidance that they've given us is something that we do already, and we've been very diligent about doing this, and that is immediately testing residents and team members that are exhibiting symptoms. We were told by the Department of Health very early on that if we think one of our residents in particular, but also our team members, have any type of symptoms or they're just not like they usually are, we should go ahead and test them. And the Virginia Department of Health has been great about that. So We will continue to do that. If there are any suspicion of symptoms, we will immediately test that resident and the team members as well. A new portion of that, however, is when we have a positive case. So if we have a positive case, resident or team member, the new guidance is that all residents and all team members will be tested weekly until there are no new cases of COVID-19 for 14 days. So, I'll say that again, just gotta make sure I said it correctly. When we have a positive case in the licensed portion of our building, so Sunshine Plaza, assisted living, or healthcare, whether it's a team member or a resident, we will test every resident and every team member once a week until there are no new cases for 14 days. So that's a pretty hefty requirement right there, and something that we think is a good change to really make sure that we try to catch things as quickly as possible. We're securing a contract with a local lab to help provide us with that test, with all of those tests, and then we would be responsible for administering those. And we're in the process of developing a plan very quickly on how we would administer those tests when we have a positive case. So that's a pretty big change for us. And then the other one that I'll mention too is fit testing for respirator use. So the N95 masks that a lot of our nursing team members use to take care of residents, there is fit testing for those masks. Essentially, they want to make sure that the mask is fitting properly to your face so that there is no leakage. There's no potential for virus or any other debris, bacteria to go between your skin and the mask and get into your respiratory system. So there is a fit test. It's kind of an interesting looking contraption, a little hood that you put over your head that you would administer to make sure that everyone's masks are I've been distracted now. There's a dog over here to my side. To make sure that everything's fitting correctly. So they have the Department of Health has actually developed a train the trainer program because it would be almost impossible to have either a Department of Health representative go out to every single community or to have every nursing team member go to an on-site training session. So we are getting one of our clinical leaders to attend that training to become a certified trainer so that that person can come back here and make sure that all of our nursing team members have been fit tested correctly. So, that was quite a bit of information in a short period of time. Anything that I'm missing, Michael? I think those are the big ones. So you'll definitely be seeing some more information about that coming here soon. And just following that guidance to move from phase to phase in the license portion of our building. So thank you all very much.
Any questions for Matt that have come in today? No? Very good. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
We are currently COVID-free in healthcare, assisted living in Sunshine Plaza, and residents and team members alike, so that's a good thing. One question that came in after David and Steve left are, what are the hours the dining room will be open? And the answer is 4:30 to 7 are those dining times. And then I received another note that says, dining will be answering all questions that you may have about phase 2 related to dining services tomorrow during the survey call. What time do we have that is?
It'll be all day, they'll be calling.
Oh, they'll be calling, okay. So when you are calling tomorrow, when someone's calling you to ask you questions about the survey, if you have any questions, you can ask the folks that are calling you tomorrow about the survey. So a little more information about 14-day quarantine. We have received many questions over the last week, so we thought we'd just highlight what does 14-day quarantine mean for Cedarfield in concert with listening to the Department of Health and or CDC guidelines. So right now, 14-day quarantine, I know this is very small print. This will be included in your new memo that we will post hopefully at some point at the latter part of next week, so everyone can see what phase 2 is for Cedarfield. One of the things that we are adhering to right now that won't change in phase 2 is our definition of a 14-day quarantine and what are the elements that would place someone on a 14-day quarantine. So 14-day quarantine, just to back up a second and define what quarantining means. If you are in assisted living, Sunshine Plaza, the health center, independent living apartment, or a cottage, a 14-day quarantine means that you need to stay in your accommodation and not leave for any reason, unless you run your exception by Ann Hopper in the clinic or one of the clinical leaders in the licensed area. That's for your safety and the safety of everyone around you. So the elements to what a 14-day quarantine are as follows. First, if you are hospitalized, whether you are an inpatient and or you go to the ER department, you are placed on a 14-day quarantine list. Unless you happen to be there several nights and the hospital can provide us with a double negative. That would be great. Second is if you're on a contact traced list. If you're contact traced by some company or medical setting, primary care's office, dentist office, beauty, barber, some type of subspecialist, to name a few. If you were on that contact trace list and it shows that you were pretty close to maybe who was exposed, then you would be on a 14-day list for Cedarfield. If you were, if you likely had a prolonged exposure, is as follows. If you are in front of somebody that has COVID-19 positive and you're within 6 feet of that individual and you're pretty much nose to nose and you're in that space for approximately 4 to 5 minutes, that's a prolonged exposure. And so we need to know that in order to protect you, the team member, or the resident, and then protect everybody else. That's really, this is one that's coming up quickly, especially given all of the protests that are happening around the region and nationally. This one is gaining some traction. Obviously, if you have COVID-19 and you're positive, we would want you to quarantine for 14 days. And then the last couple, which are, I probably need a little bit more attention since we have unsurfaced some situations where residents and team members, one team member, has not told us about their situation. So if you are traveling outside the Commonwealth of Virginia, if somebody is traveling internationally, if you're traveling by plane, train, or taxi, and if you're traveling to a known hotspot. Those are situations where we need to know that information. We will digest what is happening with you in that situation to determine whether you need a 14-day quarantine or not. This goes for residents, team members, somebody if there are private duties coming on the campus. This is a really important one. The good news is we have had 7 team members just voluntary due to all the information that have come up and shared with us specific elements of their vacation. So that's great. We've had a few residents come down and talk to us about their situation. And then conversely, we do know of some residents that are currently in a hot spot in North Carolina and or have plans to travel, or one case, they are traveling as we speak, to New York. We know of 7 instances right now, and we really need to know that information in order to protect yourself and to protect those around you. So if you know of any situations, I can tell you that your information will remain confidential. You're not snitching on your neighbor. If you're a team member listening, you're not snitching on your team, your fellow colleague. All of this is just critical information in order to keep people safe and to keep yourself safe. So those are our 14-day quarantine provisions. Visitor policy, just want to touch on the visitor policy again, since Renee is just getting phone call after phone call after phone call about allowing visitors on the property. And Cedarfield is not to that point yet. We are not freely allowing visitors to come onto the property for one reason and one good reason only, is that we are trying to limit the actual number of people that are on this property on a day-to-day basis. We're trying to ease into phase 2 and 3, and we don't want business as normal that we had back in pre-COVID days right now, because it'd be impossible to contact trace if something happened anywhere on the campus if we just open up the community. So hopefully that puts a little more color to that definition. Housekeeping. Many people have been so incredibly thankful for housekeeping to open back up. And we applaud Sharon Brown and Danny Brown and the entire housekeeping team for providing just great service. Residents have been very pleased with what they have been receiving. My public service announcement here on this slide is please don't put the housekeeper at risk, meaning they have a protocol that they have to follow. They have to ask you a couple of questions, and they have an allotment of time that they have in order to fulfill that specific checklist. And so there have been a few instances where residents have been putting the housekeepers in a very uncomfortable situation, saying, you don't have to listen to Sharon Brown or Michael Shaw about what their protocol is. You don't have to wear a mask when you're in here, nor we want you to stay another hour while you're in here. My public service announcement is, please leave the housekeeper to what they are asked to do from Sharon Brown, and don't put any pressure on them to do otherwise. They feel very uncomfortable. There's a few of them that feel very uncomfortable right now because of the undue pressure that they are being placed in due to being in either a assisted living apartment, and being asked to do things that they're not authorized to do. So please help us, help you, and keep the housekeeping team comfortable. COVID-19 communication by the numbers. For those of you that are interested, Eddie, can you zoom in on that? Thank you. Disclosure of information to date as of June 24th. Can't believe we're already entering the end of June. 68 residents have been tested. 10 residents have tested positive over the last 4 months. There have been 96 team members that have been tested, and 12 team members have tested positive. Thank you, Eddie. Just back up. And so this number will definitely change come July, beginning of July, when Matt Dammer just told us that we're going to have another point prevalence survey for every resident that lives in healthcare, assisted living, and Sunshine Plaza, and every team member that works in one of those 5 neighborhoods. So these numbers, the testing number will definitely change. Hopefully, the positivity rate stays the same as listed on the screen. One more public service announcement for our mission and our shared values. Thank you to all the residents that have come down to the administration suite to pick up maybe an extra magnet that you wanted to deliver to your son or daughter, and or have been sharing this information. This is a really critical piece of information that many people have drafted and put thought behind what will get us through the day safely. And this mission statement of keeping everyone safe and our 10 shared values on here is just critical. So if anybody needs another magnet so you can share it with your family and friends, we have plenty of magnets. We've posted these shared values around the community at all of the main entrances. If you'd like to just take a picture of it and send it on to your family and friends, that would be great as well. This is listed on our website, our Touchtown account. We want as many people to know these shared values as possible so that we're all working in the same direction about how to keep Cedarfield safe. So, magnets are available down in the administration. Okay, families near and far. Again, if you are listening tonight, taking time out of your family time, you probably got onto the Touchtown account through this little grid, mycedarfield.com, click Get Access, and then we're able to click on that Cedarfield module. Please tell as many people as you can that need this information. If you have a brother, a sister, an aunt, or an uncle that live far away, but yet are concerned about their brother or sister who happens to live here, and you want them to have access to this information, that's why we post it every week. It's free, and we don't need to give out passwords to people. So please implore people to come onto this app to get current information about happenings at Cedarfield. Here's the main slide that pops up once you click Guest Access. All these icons pop up, and now over here on the left-hand side, the coronavirus update yellow module is the one with all of the current information in there. And at some point next week, after we finalize our Phase 2 plan, we will post the Phase 2 plan in this module at the top left-hand corner, the coronavirus update. Our visitation vistas, this picture is as of yesterday. The visitation vistas are just, they keep evolving. make some suggestions. I think even there was a suggestion today, is there a way that we can air conditioning, if we can place air conditioning inside of these visitation vistas. So, but the creativity is admired, and we love the creative thought. If you have an interesting way that we can make these visitation vistas more relaxing and inviting, we would appreciate the comments. This picture is as of yesterday. I know that they're putting some potted flowers in these visitation vistas, some carpeting, some nice chairs to sit in, and so things seem to be going fairly well. Our visitation vistas for residents that live in healthcare, residents that live in assisted living, and residents that live in Sunshine Plaza. There is a visitation vista available for you. If you need to schedule time visiting your loved one, feel free to contact the neighborhood in which your loved one lives in, and they'll schedule time for you to access this visitation vista according to the schedule. So one of the things that has popped up here in the last few weeks with the Department of Health and actually the police departments, believe it or not, here's some good things that have come out of that world, that we need to pay a little bit more attention to people who come onto the property that help supplement service. So we have 300 team members that work here, and then we have private duty personnel that come onto the property to help supplement care, whether it's in healthcare, assisted living, Sunshine Plaza, and even in independent living. A couple of months back, we took a bold step. The neighborhood leaders and Matt Dameron did an awesome job of gaining control of knowing who's on the property through a new policy that we developed to assure ourselves that the folks that are supplementing care are going through a similar background check that I go through every year, that Renee goes through every year, that all of the team members go through. And now the Department of Health and other regulatory agencies are recommending that we take the next step and do that for independent living. So we've had a policy in place here for 24 years, and we are going to take the next step and build upon what we've done here in the last couple of months. And we are going to employ this policy around the whole community to make sure that we know that the people who are supplementing care in the cottages or the main building in the independent living apartments are well vetted, their backgrounds are clear, so that we know that they're safe to be on the campus. So more information about this over the next couple of weeks as we draw closer to a deadline where we're going to put the stake in the ground and go through a formal policy in a background way of collecting information from our folks labeled as private duty personnel. The package room, I'm not quite sure. Karen, can you come into the fellowship hall and help me understand the package room? Karen wanted to talk a little bit about the package room. I'm forgetting why she wanted the package room. I'm going to move on to a new slide called Construction Update. D-Wing. So D-Wing, for many of you that have not received a couple of call walls, we experienced, hopefully everybody knows this at some point, that 2 Fridays ago, we experienced one of the faucets in one of the bathrooms. That water line was loose underneath the cabinet, and when they pressurized the building, that line came loose. 4 apartments on the 3rd floor, 4 apartments got flooded out on the 2nd floor, and then all of that water had to go somewhere, so it went down to the garage and into the elevator shaft. And so over the last 2 weeks, we have spent a significant period of time working through 5 different insurance companies in establishing the claim. We have been working with ServPro to remediate the situation. And then what we're currently working on is a project plan of what the time and the cost will be associated with putting those 8 apartments back together and the hallways that were affected, plus an elevator. So we don't have that figure yet of what it's going to take to put that back together, nor do we have the time scheduled yet to for that. So as soon as I know that information, we will convey it timely to the residents. The good news is about D-Wing is that the Friday afternoon, the Friday of which this whole water leak event happened, the county gave us our temporary certificate of occupancy for the building. So as we work towards coming up with the plan for the 2nd and the 3rd floor, we're crossing our fingers that we can get a temporary certificate of occupancy now to move people in on the 4th floor, since that floor wasn't affected at all. So that's the status of D-Wing. If anybody has any further questions about D-Wing, please call the administration suite. I can tell you that the 24 people who have a reservation or are likely to move into D-Wing have been incredibly patient and understanding. 2 of those folks that were supposed to move in are already living here in another accommodation down in the main building on A-Wing. And so we're trying to keep the other 22 future residents updated with information and keeping them excited about life at Cedarfield in the future. But they have been incredibly understanding and patient about the situation. So Karen is here to give us a little information about the package room.
Thank you, Michael. When the COVID started and we closed the in-house package room, you no longer received your pink slips. But when we opened the in-house mail room, the pink slips are back in your in-house mail room, which means the packages are in the package room. So we are asking now to check your in-house mailbox frequently and get your packages. Quite often we are now seeing that the package room looks like Christmas time, and that's not such a bad thing. But anyway, so we're just reminding if you could check for your pink slips and then get your packages on a fairly regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. A couple other construction tidbits. The pond dredging. Little update on the pond dredging. Why have things stalled a little bit here in the last 2 weeks with the pond dredging? 2 items have surfaced. One is that the county here at the 23rd hour has asked us to do a couple things around the bridge and the dam leading down to the rest of the waterway. So we are working with them on that plan. Residents have asked to clear the shrubs and some taller trees outside of the clubhouse so that people can actually see the water. And so while the county kind of gave that blessing and said, go do what you need to do, we secured a quote from the company who actually did all this work, and they are in the middle of next week, I believe, early next week, we're going to lower that shrubbery outside of the deck on the clubhouse so people can see restoration plan for the alleyway, I call it, of where all the equipment was being used, where the equipment was to haul out all of the sediment. So we need now a restoration plan. So they threw that at us at the 23rd hour. So probably while we won't plant trees in that area, because every 3 years we have to get into that portion that they designated as the clean out and dig that sediment out in that tight little area. We probably will proceed with maybe providing grass in that area and maybe another stable type of product for future equipment to be able to drive over, as long as it doesn't look like a driveway, so to speak. So that's the holdup with the pond dredging. The garden beds, Friday, I've been told that we will be, James River, who's helping us with the garden beds themselves, will be here to start building those beds, weather permitting. And then the other thing on Friday is they'll be implementing the concrete that we need in order to put the garden house on top of, which then the following week, next 2 Fridays from now, we should see that garden house delivered. So you should start to see the fruits of all the planning that Jack Johnson and Beth Burrell have been doing later this week in that area. I know many people are excited about that. And then the households, for those of you that are new to the campus, this might be a new term to you. Cedarfield is trying to transform our long-term care area. Some people call it a nursing home. We no longer use that term. We call it a household for a variety of reasons, which we'll get into again a little later. But the household project looks like we will, as of last Thursday, we should occupy that space in late January, beginning of February of next year. And then a couple other just tidbits of capital projects around the campus that I know of are interest of many people. One is the the railings that need to be installed on the steps on the south side of the Pathways to Wellness building. We did secure a contractor. That contractor is fabricating that railing for us, and as soon as we have an installation date, we'll communicate that date to everybody. So the steps from assisted living down back towards the garden bed area, which ultimately leads down to A-Wing. Any steps that don't have a railing, we'll be installing a railing back there. And then, speaking of the Pathways to Wellness building, those of you that frequent the exercise pool or the lap pool, since the beginning of the project, or since we've opened the building, the pool area has been louder than we anticipated it to be. And so we've been working with a company to fabricate a silencer. And so we will be, over the next couple of weeks, we will be continuing to work with this contractor to implement a silencer inside of that ductwork to dampen all of that noise that you hear in the pool area. So we're actively working on that. And then the other project is the sidewalks between B-Wing and C-Wing around all of those trees that sidewalk has popped up. We will be remediating that here in the next couple of weeks. Jack has secured, finally, not because of Jack, but the subcontractors, a reasonable bid, and we will be employing one of those vendors to help us relay out that sidewalk and probably eliminate some of the concrete in between all of those trees, and yet keep it on the perimeter to make it safe for residents. Okay, one last thing for me before I turn it over to Trish. So we reserve the right to celebrate promotions, people that transfer from one community to another, people that are promoted from within Cedarfield. If someone like Amy Chapman is promoted to another campus, or Matt Dameron comes over to Cedarfield, we reserve the right to celebrate those occasions, and we absolutely reserve the right to celebrate the retirement of somebody. And I don't know if you know who this picture is, given the fact that she's all dressed up. This is Lori Shepherd. Those of you that know Lori, you know that Lori loves to have a good time. Even with big ears like that, and if she could wear big ears like that and a hat all day long, I think she would, don't you think, right? I think she would. Here's a more flattering picture of her. Lori Shepherd has been at the helm of Helping Hands for 15 years at Cedarfield. I don't know about you, that many of the lives that she has touched, but for me, if I'm stranded on an island and I need an RN on the island, I want a Lori Shepherd on that island. She is just an incredible nurse, and more importantly, she's just an incredible person to be around. And we're also happy for her that she's retiring. But we're going to miss her tremendously. Her energy level is just unbelievable. From the moment that you come onto the campus, many of you are probably sleeping, but for many of the staff, we get here at 7:30. And if you walk into the administration suite area, Lori's probably already there. And she greets you with just a awesome, good morning, how are you? And she just sets the tone every morning for all that she comes in contact with. And I know all the residents that are listening can vouch by saying how passionate she is to make sure that you are well cared for, that your medications are all tidied up in a very safe and secure manner. Her Helping Hands team is just a delight to see all of the CNAs in her area respond to her leadership. It's because she cares so much about the residents. The CNAs respond accordingly. They just love working for Lori. And so we will absolutely miss Lori Shepherd. She is going on what we call a PRN status, meaning she will fill in from time to time over the next 15 years. As Ann Hopper may call on her to fill in on a shift or two. So you may see her from time to time over these next 15 years as a PRN status. But here every day, leading the helm, she will pass on the baton effective next week to a new person named Tessa Hagen. Tessa actually used to work here in the health center. She was a charge nurse, one of the LPNs on the floor. She worked here for many years. And so, when you think about legacy, you think about somebody working at a community for 15 years, passing on the baton to somebody. I know Lori and Ann are just really excited about passing the legacy of Lori Shepherd and the Helping Hands Department off to Tessa in great, capable, compassionate hands. We're looking forward to y'all meeting Tessa here in the next couple of weeks. But in the meantime, if you wish, please call the Helping Hands Department, wish Lori a great retirement. She well deserved. She's got grand plans, and we will absolutely miss her every day. So congratulations, Lori. So that's some good, sad news. Okay, Trish Carter with some spiritual well-being.
Good afternoon, Cedarfield. I would like to share with you a passage written by Kathleen Ostrom. She's an ordained Presbyterian minister. It's entitled Dividing Lines. How foolish are the dividing lines we use to gauge our rank and worth. The color of our hair, when with time it all turns gray. The shade of our skin, when like flakes of snow, no two are the same. The size of our homes, which may shame us when we realize there are so many without shelter. And then there is the widest dividing line of all, our faith. My God is better than your God. When there is one God, the God who calls all children, and in that one word erases all the lines we have so carefully drawn. And now for some good news. This is Ben Maxwell. Ben is the Richmond grandson of Becky and Tom Maxwell. Ben just graduated from Monacan High School, and he will attend James Madison University in the fall. He will major in Justice Studies. He received a 4-year U.S. Army ROTC scholarship, and after graduation, he plans to serve in the Army as a second lieutenant. In addition to the U.S. Army scholarship, he received the HCA Virginia Compact Scholarship, the Josephine Artist Memorial Scholarship, the Early College Scholar Certificate, the Presidential Award Certificate. He's in the National Honor Society. He received the Excellence Award in AP Calculus. He also, from the Career and Technical Education Department, received the Sports and Entertainment Marketing Award. In addition to athletics and academics, he was a youth leader in his church. His grandparents, Becky and Tom Maxwell, are so proud. Next, we have Jordan Mathis. Jordan recently graduated from Vandergrift High School in Austin, Texas. Jordan is a member of the National Honor Society, the Science Honor Society, and the Spanish Honor Society. In addition to that, she graduated in the top 10% of her class, and her class was 700 students. She ran cross country for her high school team and looks forward to continuing running cross